Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content stuff. That's something that you're interested in. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Today I have a very large book unhaul. So I haven't done a book unhaul on my channel in a very long time. I've kind of just been unhauling as I go, and like basically at the end of the month I will like just post things on Pango that I don't want anymore if I like read them and I didn't like them or whatever. And I haven't really filmed an unhaul, but I have a lot of books that I want to talk to you about today that I am going to be unhauling. I figured with the Christmas season and everything like that, I'm trying to make some more room on my shelves. And so because of that, we're going to be doing an unhaul. I'm also working with Pangobooks on this video. I am working on a beta test with them to be able to do seller-based sales. And so that way, basically, a seller can do their own sale. They can do their own discount codes and things like that, rather than relying on Pango for the like site-wide sales that happen kind of at Pango's discretion. We can do it at our own discretion. So I'm going to be beta testing that over the Thanksgiving Black Friday week. So I don't know exactly the details of it yet. We're kind of given like guidelines as far as what we can do, but all of the information will be linked down below. So if you're interested in any of these books and you live inside the United States, check out my Pango bookstore and you will have access to that sale. As always, we will be doing free shipping for anything over $20 if you have a bundle or anything like that. But beyond that, I think we'll probably be doing like a site-wide like percentage off sale. I'm just not sure what the details of that are yet, but the information is down below. So I have this broken up into age ranges and a little bit of genres. We have some middle grade books, we have some adult books, but the large majority of this is going to be YA, both fantasy and contemporary. As I've talked about quite a bit on my channel this over the past couple of months, I am really falling out of love with YA books, which is fine. I am 33 years old. The odds of me really loving a YA book is gonna be like really low, honestly. There are some that I really like, but for the most part, I'm not loving them as much. So because of that, I'm unhauling a lot of them because they're just books that like I'm probably not going to read. And if I really wanted to read them, I could find them at my library. It doesn't make sense for them to be sitting on my shelves collecting dust, literally, when someone else could be really enjoying them. So I will put timestamps down below for the genres and the age ranges. That way, if you just want to watch a certain part of it, you can jump to that. Or if you just want to watch it all, grab a cup of coffee, grab a drink, grab a snack. Let's get started. I'm going to start with my middle grade books. This one actually won't be on my Pango books. Anything that is damaged or a physical arc, I'm just going to be donating to my little free library. We have a little free library box up the road from me, so I'm just going to drop off a bunch of them for them. But that one is Wish Tree by Catherine Applegate. This has like a big tear on the cover, which is a real bummer. This is a middle grade about a oak tree that grants wishes. It's the only middle grade that's on this list that I actually haven't read, but I just don't see the need for it. Also, if I really wanted to, Hoopla has it as an audiobook, but it's just not a book that I'm really gonna want to read. I have Crenshaw also by Catherine Applegate. I read this one. This is a middle grade contemporary about a boy whose family is just really struggling, really going through some hard times, and his imaginary friend from when he was a younger kid comes back into his life, and he's trying to figure out why. I have Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. I already sold Small Spaces. I read these both in October. Really enjoyed them, but it's not a book that I'm going to be rereading. If I do, again, my library has them. I would listen to it on audio, so I don't need to keep a physical copy of it. I have Amina's Voice by Hannah Khan. This was a really cute middle grade contemporary about a girl who's just like everything's changing in her life. She's trying to find some stability. Her friend group is changing. Her friends seem to be changing. So she's just trying to find some stability. If you read a lot of middle grade, or if you like work in a library that has middle grade books, I would actually highly encourage you pick this book up. The conversations that are in here are really great. So I definitely recommend picking this one up. Again, I just won't reread it. Lastly, I have Long Live the Pumpkin Queen by Shay Earnshaw. I did read this one in October as well. I think I ended up giving it 3 stars. I think if you're a really big fan of Nightmare Before Christmas, this might be a really good book for you. Unfortunately, it didn't really work for me. It was kind of boring. But I understand the appeal of why people like it. I'm going to save my YA for last, only because it is the stack furthest away from me and is the largest stack. So we're just going to work our way that way. So we'll start with the adult like horror thriller type books. A couple of horrors that I read in October. We have Black Tide by Casey Jones. This is like an end of the world dystopian type story with, you know, paranormal stuff. I can't really go into it without spoiling it, but this if you really like those action adventure type movies or books, I think this might work for you. It had remnants of things like A Quiet Place or Bird Box, like kind of the same vibes, not the same story, but the same vibes. And if you like that type of thing that's like action packed, adventure-y, this might work for you. Just didn't work for me. Same with The Deep by Alma Katsu. This is a historical horror novel that takes place on the Titanic and the Britannica. I think Britannic. Both are ships that sunk, and this kind of has a little bit of a paranormal aspect to it with ghosts and things like that. For me, this was just mismarketed. I thought it was a horror novel, and it's really more of a historical novel that has some ghost. So if you like historical, this will be a good book for you. Just didn't work for me. Okay, I have Past Perfect Life by Elizabeth Eulberg. It was a book of the month from July 2019. I've had this book for a very, very long time. And I realized recently that this is a YA thriller. And if there's something I like less than YA books in general, it's YA thrillers. I don't think I've ever read a YA thriller that I really liked, unless you want to count like the Inheritance games. So, yeah, this one's gonna go. I don't even know what it's about, honestly. I think it's about a woman or a girl who, like, finds out she was actually abducted as a child, but they went on and tried to tell the story that she was just adopted, but really she was abducted. I don't really know, though. It's been sitting on my shelf for a very long time, and I've never wanted to pick it up. I have The Last Thing He Told Me by Laura Dave. This one was getting some good reviews. I think it was nominated for a Goodreads Choice Award maybe last year. And then Michelle read it recently and really hated it. And Michelle and I have pretty similar taste when it comes to this type of book, so I'm trusting her on it. She said, just skip it. Just post it on Pango. So that's what I'm going to do. Then I have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. I did read this one in early 2020, and for some reason still hung on to it. This is a book that's, like, fine. It's okay. However, I do think that a lot of her books are kind of the same, and it's very, like, Agatha Christie inspired, which is not really my favorite, so I'm not going to reread this book. So I have City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert. This is a, like, historical fiction romance, maybe, I don't know. It takes place in the 1940s. This was compared to Evelyn Hugo, but then, like, it's not really Evelyn Hugo. It just kind of has similar vibes to it. But I picked this up trying to do a video project for it, and it's nowhere near what Evelyn Hugo is. So I ended up putting it down and just never wanting to pick it back up. This is another one I'm just gonna put in my little free library, and that's The Orphan Keeper by Cameron Wright. Didn't realize that Shadow Mountain Publishing is a LDS publishing house, so this is definitely going to be like white savior, no, kidnapped in India, raised in America, the truth that leads him home. If this wasn't an LDS publishing house, actually it could be interesting and could actually have some, like, cultural conversations. Knowing that it's an LDS publishing house, this is going to be very white saviory, and I'm not here for that, so this is just gonna let someone else read that. I don't need it. We have Behold the Dreamers by Mbola Mbo. I read this one a really, really long time ago, and I really enjoyed it, and I kept it around because I wanted to reread it, but then it just didn't happen, and I've kind of moved away from my literary fiction era and into, you know, fantasy, and so this is not a book that I really want to reread at this point, so it doesn't make sense for it to just continue sitting on my shelves. I did really enjoy it when I read it, though. Next up, I have The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. I think I got this last year because it, like, made the Book of the Month, Book of the Year, like, finalist, or it won Book of the Year. I don't remember. I was going to read all of those finalists, and then I didn't because they all sounded very boring, or, like, most of them. The ones that I hadn't read already sounded boring, and I just didn't continue doing it. And then I heard that this book ended up being really dry. So I have no desire to continue reading. Kristen Hanna is not really the author for me. I did like The Great Alone, but that's the only book that I've ever liked from her. So it's gonna go. Okay, I have a book called My Crazy Sick Love by Drika Panotti. I got this at BookCon in 2019 and haven't read it yet. This is a romantic comedy. The back of it does not sound great, and I don't even know why I've had it on my shelf so long. The mental health does not seem great here, like, just, you know, based on the back of information. So it's gonna go. I have Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly. I haven't read this one yet. However, I've realized that I don't like romances in the Book of the Month format. I want them in paperback, so I'm going to probably just trade this out for a paperback copy. This is a romance that has a non-binary main character. It takes place on a cooking show, which is just like, there's been a lot of books this year that have done that, but I've heard really good things about this one, so I'm excited. I have Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. I liked this book, but I didn't like the sequel, and so for that, I don't know, I just don't need to keep this. I'm probably not going to reread it. I have the audiobook for it if I wanted to, but again, it's not a book that like needs to stay on my shelves. And then lastly, I have The Ex-Hex and The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling. Again, this is like that Book of the Month type romance that I don't need. Also, I didn't love The Kiss Curse. I only gave that one 3.5 stars, and so because of that, I don't need to keep either one of them. I'm not going to reread them. They're like fun Halloween-y reads, but I don't need to keep them. I have Fire and Blood by George R.R. Martin. This is actually Derek's book, but I'm putting it on here anyway, just in case anyone wants it. This reads like a history book, and that's boring. So I'm not gonna read it, that's for sure. But yeah, it's apparently like very dry and like not exciting at all. So because of that, it's gonna go. It was just like, it takes up so much room on our shelf when we were rearranging our living room furniture, and I was like, are you gonna read this? He's like, honestly, probably not. I was like, cool, it's going in the Pango list. I have The Lost Apothecary by Sarah Penner. I've just heard such mixed things about this book. Hoopla does have it if I do decide I want to read it. The cover is beautiful, and honestly, that's the reason I've kept it so long. But this is like about a bunch of women who like create potions for men who have wronged women, of you know, I don't know, varying success. I don't know. But I've just heard such mixed things about this from a lot of different people that I trust. So it's not like, why would I waste my time reading a 3-star book? I have The Night Ship by Jess Kidd, and I'm only getting rid of this because I have duplicates. I have 2 of these. So this is the aardvark edition of it. This is a like historical fantasy that has like varying timelines and things like that. Alright, and then the last 2, you're probably going to cancel me for. It's fine. I'm going to be getting rid of both of these. I've read this one. I haven't read this one. And I don't want to. Honestly, I don't know. Let me know down in the comments below if I should keep these. Because my problem with this is I DNF'd ACOTAR. And I didn't like it. I don't want to read it, and I don't want to read Throne of Glass. And so I've been told that in order to read the 3rd book in this series, you have to have read the last ACOTAR book. And they're like all actually connected. And I don't want to commit myself to that. So I kind of just want to get rid of these books. Let me know down in the comments below if that's actually incorrect, and I can just read these as their own series. Let me know. But as it stands right now, I'm going to get rid of these. Finally, moving on to my YA. I think we'll start with the contemporary, and then we'll go into fantasy because that's the largest stack of things. I just decided I'm going to get rid of like all like the series for the most part. First up, we have Anna Kay by Jenny Lee. This is a book that's just been sitting on my shelf for 3 years at this point. I don't know, teenage drama is just not a thing that I want to read about anymore. I have Bright Burning Stars by A.K. Small. I read this, I think, last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year for like a themed reading vlog. And this is like a dark contemporary. There's a ton of trigger warnings for this, for like eating disorders and like bullying and just a lot of stuff, because obviously like they're in like this professional dance school. And it was actually pretty good. I think I gave it 4 stars, but I'm not going to reread it. The Miseducation of Cameron Post, I think, is like a really old book, to be honest. It's a movie tie-in cover, which I don't like, and it's probably about teenage drama, and I'm done with YA. That's going to be kind of the theme of the rest of these books, is I don't want to deal with teenage drama. So that's why I'm getting rid of this. Violent Ends by Sean David Hutchinson, or edited by Sean David Hutchinson. This has, like, it's a story about a school shooting. I don't need to read that. I've had that on my TBR for so long, and I've never reached for it. Okay, Amelia Unabridged by Ashley Schumacher. This is a book that I, like, might keep and might put in like a self-destruct list, because I have like the people that have talked about this really, really love this book. I'm just afraid because it's a YA book. So this might be one I keep in, put in a self-destruct list, and basically like get rid of it in a year, because we're coming up at the end of my current self-destruct list. So I'll need to make a new one for next year. I have A Song Below Water by Bethany C. Morrow. I have heard good things about this one, but it's like a YA contemporary magical realism type book, which does not interest me at this point. So it's gonna sit on my shelf and just continue to collect dust when someone could be reading it and loving it. So I decided to get rid of the entire Curse So Dark and Lonely series, because it's YA fantasy, and I'm gonna give these books 3 stars. I guarantee you. If I read these series, I would give them 3 stars. So I think they're Beauty and the Beast retellings. I don't know. I'm getting rid of a lot of those like older YA fantasy series. I'm keeping the Terra Sim one for a video project. I'm keeping Shadow and Bone, because I loved Six of Crows, and I'm gonna keep the Girls on Paper and Fire series because I really loved the first one. Other than that, I think I'm getting rid of all of my YA fantasy series. I am going to be getting rid of Skin of the Sea by Natasha Bowen. I did read this one, I think, end of last year, and I really liked it. I kept this around because the cover is so gorgeous, but it's not a book that I'm going to reread. It's a pretty cover. So, but it's going to sit on my shelf. It's going to look pretty on my shelf, but I want somebody else to read it. I have Seafire by Natalie C. Parker. This is an ARC, so I'm actually just going to be dropping it off in my little free library. But this is like a pirates fantasy. I don't know. I have no desire to read it. Same with The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. I think I picked this up because I was going to try to do a project of like watching the movie and reading the book and whatever. And that was a long time ago. And it's just been sitting on my shelf ever since. I'm going to be getting rid of the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy, as well as The Night of Cake and Puppets, which I think is like the sequel. I don't know what it is. Don't know. Not gonna read this. These books have been on my shelves since the very beginning of my channel, and I haven't wanted to pick them up. I don't really love the covers. It's not a book. It's not a series I'm going to continue reading, or that I'm even going to start reading. Honestly, couldn't even tell you what they are. Hopefully you know what they're about, because you actually pay attention on BookTube. I don't remember. I have no idea. Okay, I have The Witch King by H.E. Eggman. I've heard really good things about this book, but I'm just not like finding the desire to want to read it. It is about a trans fae prince, I think. I think that there's a romance in here, which again, like YA romance is not something that I want to read anymore. So yeah, I've heard good things about it, but it's not a book that I'm drawn to. Okay, I have The Keeper of Night by Kylie Lee Baker. I've just heard very mid things about this, and there's a sequel to it that was not picked up by Book of the Month. So if I did pick up the sequel, I would not match. So I think this is on Hoopla, so I could pick it up just via audio. And then if I like it, I could get like matching. But like as of right now, I don't want a book that's not gonna match. I have an Enchantment of Ravens by Margaret Rogerson. This is really funny. The funny story. So I was out book shopping with my niece a couple weeks ago, and she picked up Vespertine, which is like Margaret Rogerson's newest books. And she's like, "Oh, have you read any Margaret Rogerson?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think I have a couple of hers on my shelf. I just haven't like actually read them." They're like, "Oh, she's such a good author, except for An Enchantment of Ravens. Don't read that one; it's terrible." And this is a girl who reads like literally anything you put in front of her and loves it. So the fact that she didn't like this book probably tells me I won't either. Okay, then I have Wicked Fox by Kat Cho. This I've been told is very high schooly. It's like very K-pop inspired, which is not something I really ever got into. So I don't think that it's going to be something that I'm going to love. I also have The Bells by Danielle Clayton. This was really big, I think back in like 2018. But it's one of those books that like has surpassed its excitement. And I heard that the sequel was not as great. So it's not a book that I'm going to pick up. It's YA fantasy. Like I'm just gonna like keep repeating myself, I guess. Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian, I think is a gender bent Arthurian retelling. I've had this on my shelf for a year and a half now, and not going to pick it up. Although the cover is Stunning. Girls Made of Shadow and Glass by Melissa Barshaust. This, I think, was a very early book outlet order, and I never picked it up. I think it's a Snow White retelling? I don't know. Blade So Black by L.L. McKinney. I have actually heard some really good things about this. This is like an Alice in Wonderland retelling, so this one, it's been on my shelf for so long, and I haven't wanted to pick it up. So, I don't see myself doing that. Okay, and then I'm going to be unhauling The Beautiful and the Damned by Renee Audier. I did read this one as part of my, like, these books will self-destruct, and this one did not make the cut. So, yeah, and so then obviously, like, I had the sequel and I don't want it. And lastly, I am unhauling the Beyond the Ruby Veil and Into the Midnight Void. I DNF'd this book back in October, and it's a completed duology, so I don't need to keep these books if I'm not going to finish this book. So, yeah. If you want my full thoughts, you can look at my wrap up. Okay, let me know down in the comments below if there's any books that you want me to save. No, I'm not saying I will, but if you make a compelling argument, maybe. That's all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button that you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, I do have my very own Patreon. We have an exclusive Discord, other exciting, fun things happening. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my Instagram, Goodreads, and Twitter. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.